Folks, it's my great honour to bid you a good journey on this very historic tour. And when people talk about the hunger strike and the hunger strikers and the Hitch Black Armagh campaign, there's always that sense of a lasting impact and an enduring legacy. And I think the large attendance today of the number of people who are going to travel throughout the north to the graves is a great sense of that impact. We all know what impact the hunger strike had on the struggle, and we all know that it is now seen as one of those seminal moments in our history. And many people will always trace back to the hunger strike, the many challenges but opportunities that came out of it, and that's why the journey that we have travelled, and that's why we find ourselves in such an advanced position today. So when you're going around today, remember many of the people here were active participants in that struggle. We remember the 10 hunger strikers and their families, but don't be afraid to ask questions of each other and just find out the experience of people from a different perspective.
Fáilte roh an seo imagine mar a dúirt rimin níos luithe is privilege a bheith an seo ag Lord Chinú agus is privilege a bheith a measc na garde agus na níní atá an seo imagine the Tusa Coalition tourist. We're standing here at Patsy and Mickey's memorial. It's a memorial to the two of them, but it's a memorial to all of the hunger strikers too, because all of the hunger strikers, as has been said so many times, the men and women in Armagh and the Hitch Blacks were like brothers and sisters for that whole period of protest. Derry played a huge part in the blanket protest. Among the first couple of people to go on the protest were prisoners from Derry. Among the women who went out, the mothers who went out and took part in the first protest were like Mary Nealis and all women who took part in those protests at the beginning. And so when it came to the hunger strikes in the blocks after 4.5 years of protest, it's no surprise that 2 Derrymen were amongst the dead. 3 county Derrymen, if you want to count Kevin as well as part of that, and then 2 more in Bally, 5 in total from the county. It was a huge sacrifice. It was a huge sacrifice from that wing that Patsy and Mickey were in. They were in Hitch 5. I was in a different wing from him in H5, so you didn't see people so often. You seen them maybe at Mass on a Sunday morning. But we knew the stories. We knew that Mickey was writing plays and poetry in the wing. We knew that Patsy was up the door telling stories. We knew that particularly because Patsy arrived down a few years after the blanket began. By that stage in the Crum, they had access to better books, and Patsy arrived down after reading a long book called Firepower in Angola, and he delivered it at the door over a series of nights. I think it took him 3 nights to do it. And I remember then he passed the story on toilet paper to Tony, his brother, who was in our wing, and it took Tony 14 nights to do the same book, because the war seemed to extend out a bit over them times. They were great times. They were the worst of times, but there were great times in terms of the sense of comradeship and friendship that people built up.
Kevin was 25 when he died in Hungerstrike on the 1st of August 1981. After 71 days, he was the 7th hunger striker to die, and he's a man we're very proud of locally, and we've always looked up to him, and indeed our local GAA club here is named after him. It's probably the only club in Ireland named after a current Republican. Kevin's home place is just across the road there. You can see it just where the last bus is parked there. And it was from there on the morning of the 2nd December 1976 that he was arrested. He was taken obviously to Castlereagh and then to the Crumlin Road, and he went straight onto the blanket, and subsequently had lined himself up immediately after the death of Patsy O'Hara for the hunger strike. He was an ordinary guy, very much an ordinary guy, and he was only 20. People have to think about it, he was only 25 years old when he died.
Your friends around, don't give 'em time. They miss you, Kevin, still. Your memory lingers in their hearts we know it always will. Your sacrifice fans up the flame that never will be drowned. Though you are gone, we struggle on for the harp without the crown.
Thanks very much for all of you attending here today, and I want to give you a real big South Derry welcome. South Derry would say the Derry Wands is here, but I just want to say there that we have a long tradition of resistance here in Balahi and in South Derry, and I'm proud to say that we have carried that on during this recent struggle against the forces of occupation. Today we're talking about Francis and Thomas, two brave men who gave their lives there for the cause of Irish freedom, and for those that were in the prisons, they gave their lives for us too during those days of the blanket. It was tough times for everyone, but these people stood up and they died every minute of every day for us as well as for Ireland.
I can go back to 1975 in the fields of South Derry with my brother Thomas and Francis, and we were fighting a regime, a sectarian, bigoted regime that was grinding the nationalist people of Ireland down. We stood and fought the British soldiers that crowded the fields and streets of Balahi. We stood up while the institutions ignored our plight and ignored the circumstances that we were forced to live under. I'm standing here today as a result of my brother and my cousin Francis. I wouldn't be here, and my comrades in our midst here know well that their circumstances are the same. In the H blocks of Long Kesh, where we were incarcerated, we were told that we were criminals and we didn't deserve to live, and they tried in the H blocks to grind us to death, but they didn't succeed. And the reason they didn't succeed is brave men like the Hungerstrikers, which you all realise stood up and defied that regime.
Farewell to Balahi, likewise I'm a dog on the green hills of Derry, on that I dearly love. My thoughts return to you from my dark H-block cell. So friends and brave comrades, I'll bid you farewell. Oh gallant South Derry, you are forever blessed in our struggle for freedom. You have given your best. There's Hughes and there's Vixen, brave Sheridan and Lee, and in strife with their hands now, brave Tom McElwee. So farewell to the laddie, likewise Tom the dog on the green hills of Derby, that I dearly love. My thoughts return to you from my dark H-block cell. So friends and brave comrades, I bid you farewell.
When it came to my turn to go on hunger strike, I received a call from the leadership of the army, and it was addressed to volunteer Patsy O'Hara. And I had always been very proud to have been a volunteer in Oakley to Herd. In fact, I'm still proud, and until the day I die, it will be one of the proudest boasts that I can make, that I was a volunteer in the Irish Republican Army. But it was a short column, and it said, you had volunteered to go on hunger strike,
and have been selected to replace volunteer Kieran Doherty. If you have any second thoughts, stand aside now and nothing less will be thought of you. However, if you decide to go ahead with this course of action, you will be dead within 2 months. And it was as blunt and as stark as that. And did I have any second thoughts? Well, I was going into uncharted territory. I'd never been there before, obviously. I didn't know how I would react, but I was fairly convinced in my own mind that I could do it, and I took inspiration from the men who had gone before me. And I wrote back out to the leadership of the army and told them that I was ready to go ahead with the hunger strike and that I wouldn't let anyone down. And I've never seen the responses from the other hunger strikers, but I've no doubt they sent a similar response to the army in their own words. The aim of criminalisation was to marginalise and isolate Republicans and to defeat the Republican struggle. But by the sacrifice of the men who died in the H blocks in 1981, that strategy was completely defeated. Many hundreds, if not thousands, of young people were inspired by the sacrifice of those who died in the H blocks. And we began contesting elections from 1982, and since then have gone from strength to strength. We're now the biggest political movement on the island of Ireland, and the ideal for which the hunger strikers died is now within touching distance. And that's thanks to the bravery of men like Bobby Sands, Joe McDonnell and Kieran Doherty.
He was born in Belfast in Anderson's time, brought up without fear or respect for the crime. His heroes were rebels with their lives many paid, and soon he was part of the Belfast Brigade. Oh God, keep you, Kieran, we pray every night, and bless all your comrades who keep on the fight. When England is banished, united we'll be. Your names we'll remember when Ireland is free. The Free State election, the people's first choice, but cold-hearted Thatcher would not heed their voice. Those lackeys in Dublin, they are forever shamed by letting her kill you. They too share the blame. Oh God, keep you, Kieran, we pray every night, and bless all your comrades who keep on the fight. When England is banished, united we'll be. Your names we'll remember when Ireland is free.
The hunger strike is over, but the struggle goes on. To join Ireland's martyrs, 10 brave men have gone.
Oh, but don't be disheartened, don't weep for their loss. They'd rather choose death than accept England's laws. Oh God, keep you, Kieran, we pray every night, and bless all your comrades who keep on the fight. When England is banished, united we'll be. Your name we'll remember when Ireland is free.
Remy was reared just across here. You can actually see his house. It's the second one over there with the little porch on it. That's where he was born and reared with the McCreesh family. The McCreesh family were originally from Raymond's parents from Dorsey in South Armagh, which is between Silverbridge and Collyhanna, and they moved down to here in the early 50s to set up home here, and Remy was born here. He was a very dedicated and a very active volunteer. He had previously been a member of the Fianna in Camlock, a very, very committed Republican, very, very quiet and unassuming, enjoyed the crack with all other people, but I remember him very, as I was a younger person, used to work down in my uncle's bar in the village, and Remy and Danny McGuinness, who was his comrade, one of the comrades he was caught with, used to come in and enjoy the banter and the crack with all the older guys, but really quiet, dedicated, focused young men. You could see that they knew they were about their business, and Remy was one such person like that. A great Gaelgoer, a great, very committed Irish cultural person as well. Remy never took a visit for 4 years from he arrived in the H-Blocks because he refused to put on the prison uniform. The first visit he took with his parents, with James and Susan, was to tell them that he was going on hunger strike. They barely recognised him when they came into the visit room. His hair had darkened, he was obviously much more gaunt than that, and his mother struggled to actually recognise him. They hadn't seen him for 4 years. Himself and Francie Hughes actually had become quite close, and one of the ironies, I suppose, of history is that the paratrooper who opened up on Remy and Paddy Quinn, and then when they were coming across the fields up here, was shot dead by Francie Hughes in the operation which he was caught. So just one of the little twists of our own history. Prior to Remy's death, we actually had to consider the inevitable outcome, and which was to organise a funeral, which we obviously, given the McCreesh family, which is living here, had to be very discreet in terms of what we were trying to do. And I remember that we actually got John Davey, who had organised Francie Hughes' funeral, down here to advise us on how we should try and conduct, because we knew that there would be tens of thousands of people descend on Camla that day for Remy's funeral. I do remember I was on duty in the house at the time of the wake, and there were guys who had been volunteers with Remy here in South Armagh who had since been on the run, and they had never seen him since the day he was caught, and came back down, kind of smuggled down that night to try and visit in the house because they were themselves wanted. And I just remember, I was always struck with the emotion of seeing him in the coffin for guys who hadn't seen him, who had been active volunteers with him and hadn't seen him since the time he was caught. As expected, there were tens of thousands of people turned out. The firing party fired a volley of shots over Remy's coffin as it came up the road, just at the junction here where you see the stop sign just in front of your bus there. And the firing party was kind of secreted away then after that, and Remy's funeral took place. And of course, tragically then, 6 further Hungerstrikers deaths were to take place before the Brits eventually give way to the demands of the hunger strike. I remember once when we were in the middle of negotiations with Martin and Jerry and others, Jerry Adams said, every time we walk into a room, these people come into the room with us, the volunteers. They are in there because they're in our hearts.
A 12-year-old's memories of 1981. Doyle's Corner we gather. March with my father, seeking 5 demands. Banners held high, spirits good, hope alive. The enemy watching, hate-filled eyes, battens, guns, Land Rovers, ITV, BBC, RTE watching. Sporadic trouble, nothing too heavy. 30,000 folks, you can't let them die. Still hope. Candlelight procession, chants. Unlock H-Block. What do we want? Political status. When do we want it? Now. Jerry Fitt is a Brit. Still my mother wakes me. The sound of bin lids. Disbelief, despair, anger, confusion. Hope has died. Women crying. Men crying. Rosary beads and prayers. More tears. The year of tears. Maggie on television. Anger, hatred, disbelief. The smell of burning rubber. Masked men, petrol bombs, gunfire, news flashes, wishing I was older, feeling helpless. Raymond's funeral, huge crowds, a mass of pride, controlled anger, respect, reverence. Volunteers, 303's the final salute. 10 men dead. I accept their legacy. Hope is reborn. Go on, my own.
In those dreary H block ages, 10 brave young Irishmen lay, hunger and for justice, while their young lives ebbed away, for their rights as Irish soldiers, and to free their native land. They stood beside their leader, the gallant Bobby Sands. Now they mourn Hughes and Blythe, Raymond McCreesh in our Oslos. In those narrow streets of Derry, they miss O'Hara still. They so proudly gave their young life just to break the Daniel's hold. Their names will be remembered as history unfolds. Read the roll of honor for Ireland's bravest men. We must be united in memory of the 10. England, you're a monster. I don't think that we have won. We will never be defeated while Ireland has such sons.
This is a very beautiful and fitting tribute, visiting each of the graves of our 10 hunger strikers. And it's important to note that this didn't happen by accident. It does take a lot of work to put something like this together, and we genuinely appreciate the work and the effort that yous have put in. And you'd think at the end of that somebody could have been at the crossroads to bring yous up. But it really is important that we never forget. And I think that this shows testament to the fact that you don't forget, and the people of Derry have come the whole way to Galway tonight to remember Martin Hurson. And I think at this point I would like to mention particularly the Hurson family, all of the members of the Hurson family who are here tonight. Thank you very, very much for coming here to be here. Because these people want the community of Galway and Martin's family to know how much was thought of our hunger strikers, to know how much they meant to us and mean to us, and that their sacrifice will never be forgotten, and that your sacrifice will never be forgotten, because it is you who have lost so much. Martin was loved in this small rural community. He is loved by the nieces and nephews who never got to meet him or got to know him, and Galway and Kappa will always hold his name and his memory dear. But this event today shows again that there are people all over this country who appreciate what Martin and his 9 comrades gave for us. And I know I speak for all of us when I say this is a day to remember, to honour, and we give our word that we will work hard every day to deliver what Martin died for, because it is who he was and it is who we are, and we don't take lightly the responsibility that is on our shoulders.
Just when I was looking at the crowd there, I remember the day of Martin's funeral in this graveyard, and there was a lot less graves in here at the time, you know, and the graveyard was jammed full of people, the whole entire graveyard, right out to the road there, and those car parks where you park your buses, those car parks were packed with people, and on down that road, as the crowd was here, it was thousands and thousands of people, and it shows you how much of an effect that the hunger strike had on the nationalist community at that time, when those kind of crowds were turning out, and that was halfway through the hunger strike. And I remember I was only 17 at the time Martin died, almost 18, and the effect of the hunger strike had on my generation, there's plenty of people here in this crowd can allude to it, was massive. It was very, very big, you know, it really changed their lives. But you know, Martin, when Bobby Sands and Frank Hughes and all died, you know, it was a big event, a big national event, and then suddenly it became very local. You know, Martin Hurson was in a hunger strike and Martin died, and they brought it all home then at that stage, you know.
past the hills of green to roam, an Irish soldier lies. The youthful Martin Hurson, who for Ireland gave his life to uphold its country's dignity, he followed Bobby's signs on hunger strike for human rights, who never took stand. Farewell to you, my green and gold, and you sweet dead. My parents and companions brave, I'm thinking of you yet. Of Capel's bridge, my childhood days, fond memories I recall. And so adieu to the land I love to rule, Virgin's land of boys.
Sheena ligrafwail, a tafriali gerin, buin dorsu. Archie Durani Queen, for we much face here, Shanchi Russian sure fasta, Niag for we cheer Hannah from trial, and knock the hymns of Anya will, the Ganir Gale Harp was no sail. Le gani skrill, fwy lawen na fwy ler, Sio liv can he, o ran a fi.